Hi everyone, we're back again for another episode of Worth the Hype, right? So this week's a little bit special. We're releasing one in a weekend because it's a last minute release for this upcoming watch. And we're going to have another regular release that we've already planned. Push back a little bit slightly later around Tuesday or Wednesday in the week, right? So stay tuned for that. But yeah, as you can see from the title, we are going to talk about the latest collaboration from CW, Christopher Watt, and also the famous YouTuber Adrian Barker from Bark and Jack, right? So before that, same thing as usual, wristwatch check. So what I'm wearing today, a diver, a Seiko SKX007, right? Nothing special about this, but yeah, own this piece for quite a while and still running strong. Been wearing it as my daily, not my go-to beach watch and everything. So yeah, love it so far. And over to you, Woody.
Well, I'm wearing the Serica 5303 left-hand drive from a French micro brand, the first edition, way before they do the chronometer and all the different color variations. Still have this as a little bit of a surprise piece that I circle in every now and then. Doesn't get as much wear as I'd like, but then again, it's a curse of having a bit too many watches.
Fair enough. Right. So let's get straight into it, right? So, yeah, the watch you talk about, if you are following Instagram and so on, you know that this was teased, maybe a couple of days ago, and it was finally released yesterday, which is, for us, the late night of 5th February, 2026, right? So it is in a way a customized version of the C60 Lumière, and this what I call it the Green 15, and with the spin that was added in by Adrian himself, right? So get straight into it. The specs are exactly the same as the regular production in terms of the case size, the case material, and the movement, which is a 41 millimeter case with a thickness of 10.75 millimeter, and that's quite impressive, I would say, and a lug-to-lug of 47.9, right? And if you can see the images right here, the changes that were made is very prominently, it's the bezel has gone for a added minute tracker. And on top of it as well, the indices has gone into a more, I would say, like a better word, submariner-like, right? Which is a dot indices, right? The lume is also tweaked a little bit to show a green highlight of the last 15 minutes. In a practical use case for those who still use the dive watches to actually dive, that is, I would say, fairly useful to really highlight the last crucial 15 minutes of your air or slash oxygens available, right? Not really practical for now because I don't think anybody still uses this. You use a dive computer instead. The last twist that was added in is that you have a engraved case back that says B&J behind, compared to the regular version, which has a open case back, right? So that may be a plus or minus depending how you look at it. Right? Now, on to the sorry, before that, the production is a limited order. So all the way until March, I believe. No, wait. Was to 12th of February. So essentially you have about a week from now that you're able to order it, and it's a limited production, and you'll fulfill all the orders in end of March, right? So that's the, in a way, the limited production for this. The price, that's an interesting conversation, right? So if you're looking at the sites, they're mostly quoting the US dollars, which is $2,995 US dollars. And the regular production in USD, it's about $2,450 US dollars, right? So a 500 US dollars price difference. However, upon digging, Woody and I discovered that if you change the currency, at least for the two currency that we have selected, which is GBP in pounds and also in SGD, Sing dollar, the price difference between this variant and the regular production variant, it's a lot less, right? The discrepancy has gone down from 500 US dollars to under 200 US dollars, right? Why is this the case? I don't know. But if for those who are ordering internationally, a tip or slot hack here is do not select US dollars. Right, so that's a tip for you. And on top of it, to note as well, you're not only going to get just one bracelet, which is the bracelet. The bracelet itself. You have two strap option, which is the bracelet, and also in terms of the additional strap options available as according to the image as well. Right. In terms of secondary market, if you look at the standard variant, you will go from 2,450 down to about 2,000 US dollars. So there is some savings to be found if you're looking at the standard RRP versus the standard market pricing, right, for the secondary pricing. However, how does this do? Perhaps it being a limited production, it may actually go above RRP, and that's something that remains to be seen, right? Before we dive into it further, any things you want to add in, Woody?
I will say that discovery that we both made, you may want to check where you're ordering from and whether it's geographically tied to you as well, right? Initially, we were thinking maybe it's a tariff picture, but the fine print clearly also says that it excludes any additional tariffs later. So it's a bit strange, and I don't know whether it's a unique arrangement of some sort, because the number that we worked out is close to 500 US dollars difference if you use US dollars, about 200 pounds if you use GBP, and about 200 Sing dollars if you use Sing dollars, and it doesn't add up. So we didn't go as far as to try VPNs and all that, but one might speculate that there could be an additional buffer for some kind of pre-booked tariff, because I do remember that some point in time, Christopher Watt had to raise their prices, and then they rolled it back because they found some sort of a corporate mechanism to ensure that they wouldn't have to levy the tariffs on to consumers in the US. I'm maybe speculating that they couldn't do as much with a limited production series that's originating clearly from the UK. That's just my speculation. But otherwise, I think the other points that I want to raise, we can do it when we get into the criteria later.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. And also, I think one thing I failed to mention as well in terms of the other difference as well versus the regular production, there is a hidden buck and jack logo on the dial itself that could only be seen under the UV light, right? So I think that's an interesting way to add in the collaboration details, but we'll talk more about it in the ecstatic portion, right?
Just one thing I forgot to mention. I think we both failed to mention, even though it looks on the picture like a steel watch, this is actually a full titanium watch. It's a titanium bracelet. Yeah. Yes, a grade 2 titanium for both the case and the bracelet. And so even the strap that comes uniquely with this limited edition has got a buckle that's titanium, if I remember reading. Yeah.
Let's get into it in terms of the criteria. On the very first one, is it worth it at retail, right? So whether it's worth it at retail or not, I think the question you need to ask yourself is like, how drawn are you to the design, or how big of a fan of Adrian you are, right? So this is the two things that really changes in terms of this and the regular production, in terms of the premium that you're paying for. Yes, of course, you get additional strap. You could factor in you could argue that that's the upcharge, the premium is justified because of it. However, I would say that the premium that you're going to pay for is going to be on the design, right? And the design part is whether you like it or not, and it's going to be subjective, right? So in my perspective, I personally like it. And I like that it's very subtle, but it's something that I can envision myself doing. I say what I mean by that is that if I'm able to approach a brand and I'm able to tell them what exactly I like and what exactly I want to switch and what I want to change, this is sort of the project that I would probably done in a similar approach, right? It's not done for the sake of just making it different for the sake of different. It's actually what Adrian himself liked, right? As a dive watch lover and a watch enthusiast himself as well. And all the tweaks seems to lean into exactly what he likes in a dive watch and so on. However, the other flip side of it as well, it's whether you like it being a little bit too similar to a Submariner right now, right? Because of how the indices look like and so on. So I don't think there's a right or wrong over there. Adrian himself loves the Submariner. He owns the Kermit himself. So I can see why he make that changes, right? I think ultimately it suits his profile, and the idea is it would suit his fan base as well, or not fan base, his viewership, right? So I think that's a question you need to ask yourself. But for me, I look at it and I really like it. I like that it's become more tool-like. It's become more, in a way, lack of better words, practical, look-wise, aesthetic-wise, but yet still remains the DNA of the C60 Luminaire itself. And I do like how clean the adjustments was made as well, right? So if you like it, being a limited production window, I would highly recommend you to buy it during this time and not hope for a deal in the secondary market, right? So the price point of 2.9, the high 2.9, so you can say 3K USD, I would say it's going to be a buy if, and a very big if you like the changes made from the regular production, right? And I'll give it a full one over here, and over to you, Woody.
I like where you went with this because the thing about collaboration watches with watch content creators or influencers or whatever you want to give them the name for, right? Now, Adrian, aka Buck and Jack, has never made it a secret that he's a huge fan of all things Rolex and Tudor, right? And his whole, the ones he prizes the most in his collection, whether sentimentally or not, have always got this link to those watches. And on top of that, he's built his image and things that he enjoys about the outdoors as well. So some of the videos that I enjoy the most about him is when he does go out to like hiking or go caving and whatnot, right? And the watch becomes part of the story as well. So those are some of the better things that I really enjoy him doing as well. So it's very much aligned to his brand persona, even when he talks about his own product line of being a NATO strap and whatnot. What is done here is, I would say, a very good summary of how a collaboration can be done well without feeling either lazy or too on the nose, right? So, yes, the changes he has made risk it becoming almost Tudor slash Submariner slash every Rolex Tudor sports watch, like, if you like. It creates that strange space where you almost become a homage. But he's taken the elements of what we as enthusiasts tend to like seeing as well. Like, he took the base and he actually sang praises to the base model anyway, the C60 Lumière, because they use complete lume blocks as well, right? So it improves the visibility. He's taken some of the and this is not original either, and I might even bring this up again during the aesthetics part, but it's also from a Seamaster where you see two different colors. The Seamaster's lume also has the minute hand being a different color to the hour hand and the rest of the watch, also for the same purposes as well. So he's taken everything he likes about these sort of dive watches, these classic dive watches, and put a spin on a platform that Christopher Ward, a brand that's local to him, to build that whole synergy, if you like. So it really all boils down again to how this resonates with you, right? Here's the conundrum that I have though. Generally, when I see collaborations, I treat it with a healthy dose of skepticism. And there's no shade on some of the others who have tried, right? I, for one, have nothing really good to say about this brand. I know Messina Lab, right? I really, really think that's all hype, right? Uh, Good taste, but really driven fully by hype. I just don't get it. I don't get that whole vibe about that. Then there is, I think recently, Teddy Baldassar tried one as well, and I think that didn't resonate as much only because it's so hard to find this space where you know there's mass appeal that even someone who doesn't follow your channel will like it. Very, very difficult to find that spot. I think what Adrian has been able to do here is find something that can resonate with more people, more of the mainstream. It's so hard to go from an enthusiast to the mainstream point of view as well. Although this is still primarily targeted as an enthusiast watch because it's a window of a week. If you're not already a watch enthusiast, you're never going to discover this and the window's going to close, right? But it would appeal to a lot more people because we're now operating in a space where At 3,000 US dollars, the watch I'm wearing operates at 1/3 less the price. But it's a micro brand, less people know it, even more subset of the niche space, right? And this one here treads this fine line of being a homage to watches you already know. But if you ever tried to then get a Tudor or a Black Bay of some kind, right? You're going to be spending a good 1,000 US dollars more for what is now going to be deemed an ordinary release, right? And so where that special sauce comes in, also you have to factor in. Uh, I think from the perspective of this entire product, what Adrian has done well is taken a base that's already, I would argue, if we were doing the C60 Lumière, right, it would have rated quite well in this category anyway for the value for money, right? He's built on a platform like this, so you could make this case of where it's interesting to you, interesting enough. And if you don't really want to stretch for the higher end mainstream brands and don't want to pay that premium, and it's really only for you, you're not really bothered about the retention value and all that jazz, it speaks to you, it will appeal. I give this a full mark because it's very rare that I find the person, the brand, the persona aligning very much with the design. And it felt like it's the purest form of design that he chose as well, right? Instead of just purely a colorway. That's the easiest thing to do. Just change the
Mm,
colors, everything else remains the same, right? He's
mm,
gone to even request for the change of the loom blocks. And then he also threw in something that he's already doing, which is the straps and all that, right? So it's like really on brand. It feels very patient to reach this stage and do it properly. And that's why I'm giving credit for it. So again, agree with you, James, that you must really like this first. If on first glance, right, this is how I recommend it. If on first glance you don't see the appeal about it, it's not for you already. You can just give it a pass. It needs to speak to you. It needs to already be something that you're interested and
mhm,
emotionally attracted to. That's where I
mhm.
say it'll be worth it. But if not, probably not. Back to you, James.
Fair enough. Right. Moving on to the next criteria. Don't think I'll spend too much time over here, but essentially I
Mm.
would say that for those who like it, for those who support Adrian or really like the design and stuff, I would really highly lean you towards buying this um at the this current period, which is until the 12th of Feb. Because one, I think you are, if you're a fan of Adrian, you're going to support him that way anyways, right? You get in the first-hand experience. And also my prediction is because this is a limited production run, its chances are you are going to pay a premium in a secondary market. I may be wrong, but it's just my guess at the moment. So with that, it's already a premium on top of the regular production. And if you're going to pay another premium in the secondary market, I would say just go for the regular production variant instead and get some savings, right? Unless you really, 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 really like the design and so on. But yeah, you have a week to decide, right? So I'll give it a 0 over here. Yeah, that's my quick take on this. And over to you.
I agree. Essentially, this is usually we look at this criteria a bit different, but I go
Mm,
in this manner, right? It's purely speculative already. So we do not know, or at least I do not know, whether there's enough hype that if you are out there, one of those people buying for a profit, right? You're probably already going to be buying it in the hope that there'll be some poor enthusiast that really wanted it that can't get it, and then you price it
mm,
up. Of which I will tell those enthusiasts, please don't feed those monsters. So I won't recommend buying on the secondary market. And even if it's going to cool, right? The thing about these watches is you will normally see a very hot window of like a month or so because people who miss the thing go like, crap, I should have bought it at that point in time, right? And then the FOMO kicks in and maybe they pick up the few that are being flipped on, right? And then there's going to be a huge drop of disinterest for a while, right? Where the ones that are being sold don't move, and yet there's not much more demand for it already. So you then wait a very long period to figure out, is this still going to be hype? Is it still going to be not? Maybe by then it's no longer of an interest to you because 1 year from now something else might be of interest to you already. So I agree with you, James, that this is a sort of watch that if you like, you buy it now, else forever hold your peace because it's not a value retention play in any which way or form that I think it is. Sadly, Christopher Watt hasn't reached any sort of level of that yet. So even though you can pick up a good bargain maybe a year or two down the road, I reckon it's one of those things that you're taking such a speculative point that if you like it, just get it because you like it. That's where I'll leave it. So I will say don't buy it on the secondary market. So 0.
all right. Fair enough. All right. So on to the next criteria, right, which is aesthetics, right? So I think this is the criteria we're probably going to spend a little bit more time over here. So aside from the stuff we already mentioned at the start, right, on how um this watch is essentially a watch that you could at a glance, if you have been watching Adrian's channel, you would know that this is something that he would do. The reason is that it's very much, I would view it in a way that this Adrian has designed it as a passion project for himself first, then market it second, right? Because that if I see it, and if Christopher Watt gives me a chance to redesign a bell contour, I would do certain things like this, right? I really like the watch. I really like the bell contour, but I just wish you have a little bit something as well. Sometimes like, because I'm not a fan of numeral indices, because of how I wish that this watch has a line or dotted indices instead, right? So this is exactly what, in a way, Adrian's watch enthusiast twist into the C60 Lumière, and I absolutely love the direction that it has taken. Right, it's not like a regular, like Woody mentioned, right? A change of color, a giant stamp of Buck and Jack logo. In fact, he went out of the way to hide the logo to make it as minimalist as possible, only to be seen under the UV light. So, like, fair point, right? I think whether you like it or you don't like it, that's a separate question, and that's subjective. But I absolutely love it, right? In terms of the changes that he did, I think it's in a way added busyness, but it's still clean overall. The only thing that I personally do not like is the closed case back, right? I do see the reason why he did it, and especially it's heavily sentimental link, right? That it's B and J, Buck and Jack, and then surrounding is the emboss of a Swiss Army knife, or that reminds of Adrian's grandfather. Right, so I think that's very, very meaningful, and that guys, that's why I say it's very much an Adrian's watch, and then market secondary. Um, for me, I would prefer a what's that called? The open case back instead, right? Where I perhaps added a B&J into the rotor itself. Because one, I think aesthetically it looks better. And second, in terms, I do not like having a stamp on my wrist after taking out the watch, right? I don't want to have a giant B&J upon removing the watch, right? So that's my own personal preference. But perhaps it's a cost reasons as well in order to maintain this certain price point. So yeah, that's all I have to say. But overall, I'll give it a full one over here. And I absolutely love collaborations like this. And this is sort of a collaboration I will want to do as well if future opportunity is provided to me, right? But yeah, over to you, Woody.
I'm going to do this slightly differently.
Mm.
Now, if I were to give this, if I take a whole historical map of when I've seen individuals, collaborations with brands, particularly specific individuals in the watch industry doing collaborations, right? This is done well. And I'm going to give props that it's done well, that it actually even elevates the base model, right? Like when you would not have considered the base model, you would actually now look at it because of what this person has done. And that's testament to good taste and on-point design, right? So for all of that, from an intellectual standpoint and the approach that I want to say more collaboration should be on, I'm going to just quickly score this as a 1 first. But I'm here in where I want to trigger a conversation with you, right, James? I absolutely agree with you that when a collaborator goes into it, they will normally put their own personal spin. The other watch that I will always remember done very emotively and done to that sort of taste level as well was Ben Clymer's Speedmaster, the grandfather Speedmaster, right? We did with Omega. That was another one that has that sort of feeling as well. I will sidetrack a little bit. I also don't like the case back. I know there's a personal reason for all of that. I don't like the stamping idea. I also don't like the fact that it reminds me of a sewage drain cover. Just don't like that sort of thing. But it is what it is. It's not going to be there most of the time, and unless you are wearing it very tightly like me, you will end up having the stamp of approval of Buck and Jack. But where I wanted to go with this is it really something that works most of the time, right? I found myself thinking about this when this watch came out. Most of these collaborations are very personal to the said individual. And it's a huge risk that the brand takes to ride with this sort of design, right?
Mm.
And more often than not, it tends to be a much smaller batch because it's done tailored to a already ready market.
Mm.
So where I'm going with this, let's say it's a collector enthusiast group, right? They take the pre-orders up front, let's say 20 pieces. They maybe will, the brand says 20 pieces, not economies of scale, let's do 30 or 50. And then the brand says, sure, you already secured half of it. The other half is go to public, right? That's a very safe way to go about it. In a way, Christopher Watt is doing a similar idea where they will only have to make as many as they sell, right? But that in itself makes me wonder, right, whether this is the right way to go around. Like if I'm an enthusiast now, I think James, you and I have this conversation before, right? We'd like one day to perhaps do our own design. We've got friends who have done it, and not easy to do because you actually put in a lot more heart and soul and a lot of your own finances to pull it off if you don't do it with a platform, and you need to be of some stature, like Adrian has built himself over the years, right, to be able to do something like this, right? So it becomes a passion project for the said individual. But you are not that individual. So you as a viewer, right, are not that individual. So it's not going to resonate with you as much. Then it becomes the question that you raised, James. You have to like the brand enough to want to support the brand as well, right?
Mm.
So therein lies the other problem. Unless you are a friend of Adrian Barker, that means you interacted with him, right? And that's where the emotional pull happens as well. Like, for instance, I'll go out without hesitating, James. If you one day create a watch, right, I'll buy it in an instant because it's someone I know personally
Mm.
for a long time, right? That's the
Mm.
connection. But if you are just a YouTube viewer that has followed, or an Instagram viewer that's followed this brand, right? Are you buying it because of him, because of the design, or because of Christopher Watt, or a bit of everything, right? And where I'm going with this is the following. My question to you, James. Would you actually buy this if, let's say, I take away the Bug and Jack connection and just leave all the design elements, and this was purely a Christopher Watt design?
Mm.
Would you buy it?
I think the answer would be yes, right? Because I
Mm.
actually like, in terms of the changes made from Adrian from the regular production over to this. But then again, I would say my taste is also very similar to Adrian's, right? And I would say they're probably the bet that the likes of the brand or Christopher Watt has taken as well is to whether can they tap into the audience base from Adrian that actually have similar mindset as Adrian, right? So there's going to be a portion of it that buys to support the brand. There's going to be a portion of it that's buy because they are friends and family of Adrian. But I believe there's also a portion that that's going to buy it because they resonate with the design, because they have same taste with Adrian. And if I were the brand, that is in a way, my success factor that I'm going to measure, right? One, am I getting additional pool of customers that actually like this kind of design more versus a more cleaner, like a standard variant that they already have, right? And these are all data points that I'm going to look at and collect and see that, all right, perhaps that if it's just a small batch of it, then I'll call it a win as well. Then we call it a one-time thing. If it's actually more demand than expected, then perhaps it's like, okay, then I need to start looking at my design team and say that, or maybe we need to change a little bit of a design language, elevate it a little bit and make it a little bit more um, in a way less minimalist and more towards what the audience actually like, right? So I think this is how that I will look at, and the certain success factor that I will measure if I were Christopher Watt. But yes, in short, I would buy it just because I like the design. I like the indices have changed over there, has filled up the watch a little bit more and makes it less empty. And I like how the additional minute markers in the bezel in a way accentuate the entire watch as well. So yeah, that's just my take. How about you?
I actually and really appreciate your candid response on that, because to me, that's the reason why it justifies me giving a full mark for this, right?
Mm.
It's when a collaboration elevates the watch to the point where if you take away the person that gets involved in it, you like it more than a base model, right?
Mm.
And that's a sign of good design, right? So if you take away the Bug and Jack aspect and it speaks to you, that means you've done something well already. You're no longer selling on the brand itself. So for me, I actually like this way more than the standard C60 Lumière, which then presents a problem. if I'm Christopher Ward now, and all things you said is absolutely correct. If I'm a business, I want all of that, right? If this watch is a success, what do I do now, right? Because do I now change the standard C60 Lumière to the indices design, and do I then play that? That means that I've made a design choice that was incorrect, or do I leave this as a one-off? It's that sort of curiosity that I now have, right? That it may make sense if this does really well to use it as a template for the future, and will that now maybe that reinforces our view of not buying on a secondary market as well, right? Because you may then get and we don't know where this will go, whether you will ever see a Rolex-esque like dial again, right? Because it might be too on the nose. We can get away with it because it's limited production with a collaborator, but if you do it as a standard thing, maybe the whole brand will go like, hey, you're just being a how much,
Yep.
And Christopher Watt is trying so hard to lift out of it. So I like it. In short, I like it. But it's more a case that I find this a very unique case study of what could happen next and where I feel collaborations work and where they don't. So full marks from me. That I'll leave it as that, James.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Right. On to the next one, which is horological feature. I think this goes with very standard in terms of what we usually talk about. It's a Sellita movement. Yes, it's COSC certified and everything. It's a grade 2 titanium used all over the place. Nothing wrong with it. I think they've done a great job putting every single piece and element together. But then again, also nothing really special over here, right? So it's a 0 for me over here. Not to pull down on the specs. The specs is great. There's helium escape valve and everything, but just nothing that actually takes it up in terms of innovation, right? But yeah, over to you, Woody.
I reckon if we were grading this on the base model, I would have given it a bit more credit. Because this is not the base model, it's a combination of parts, right? You've got the light blocks, you've got the titanium case, you've got a standard movement. I would have leaned in a little bit more, but I think I'm being a bit too generous already with the design aspect, so I tried and balance the whole thing out. It's actually deserving a bit more than no marks, but as a watch model compared to the base model, I couldn't really score it, and I'd be too generous at this stage already, so it was a 0 from me, but not a beat down on the C60 Lumière for that matter. Yeah.
Fair enough. Right. On to the next one. Wearability, right? So I think one of the big factors over here is that thickness of this watch, right? It's very, very, very thin for what it is, right? So 10.7, that is really thin for a dive watch that actually does up to 300 meters, right? We've done really, really well. Wearability in terms of how it looks like, how the breaks happen and stuff in terms of the thickness as well, works well. At 47.9, lug to lug, to me, at least in my wrist, it's very acceptable. I accept most watches under about 49 millimeter, max 50. That's my borderline. So over for me, or right here, wearability is a big plus with all the different things added together in terms of the straps available, the micro adjustments on the bracelet as well. Adding all and all together, I'll give it a full 1. And I think they did a great job over here. And over to you, Woody.
Absolutely agree with you on the proportionality, right? These are the sort of numbers you only really see. You don't even always see it from a Tudor-like level, right? You only see it at the Rolex-like level where you see this sort of proportions where a dive watch is thinner, still retains the water resistance claim. There's a little bit of that curve shape that we normally need to look for as well for wearability. Proportionality plays a huge role in all of this. And keep in mind, it's a titanium watch, so it's going to wear really light on the wrist as well. It really feels too light for that design. My only clause for concern, and this is only for those who are like me, who operate at about 6.2 inches or slightly under 15, almost nearly 16 centimeters or less, right? I don't recommend you pick this up. 47, nearly 48. I would always recommend those who around have my wrist size or smaller. Your limit is 47 millimeters at best. 41 millimeters with 47 millimeter lug to lug is often a little bit too big. But if you happen to be in the space where your wrist is bigger, this is going to wear amazingly. It's just that for those of you who are not blessed with the average wrist size and above, you will find this a little bit of a stretch, and that's where I'm worried for you, right? So I'll give it a half here only because I know it's not going to appeal to most of the tiny wrist tribe. All of you are probably going to say, I wish it was 39, I wish it was 46 millimeters, luck to luck. So it's to speak on your behalf. But as a design of a watch where you can pull it off if you have the wrist for it, you're going to have no issue other than getting used to the lightness of titanium, which is a topic for another day. Back to you,
Fair
Jace.
enough. Right. I think that's a great way to wrap it. I think it's a little bit long in this episode because there's lots to talk about. But yeah, here's a summary of the score. It brings it to a 5 from me and a 2.5 from Woody, which is a total of 5.5, right? So yeah, buy it if the price is right. So like I said, if the design speaks to you, I think this is a great time to buy it. But then again, this design is subjective. I'm sure there are people that really do not like it being too homage, if that's even a word, to the Submariner, or doesn't like that it's actually, the dial is being more filled up right now. There is a more cleaner, like a better words, cleaner version of the regular production, which you could then get in a deal in the secondary market as well, right? So I don't see this as a bad thing. It just gives options, and options is always a good thing, right? So if it works for you and you like it, or if you just want to support Adrian himself, I think this is a great buy, right? So yeah, I think that's your call to make. Any last word, Woody?
Now, I'll just repeat what I said earlier in the episode. To decide, is your first reaction. Don't read everything that everybody else says. Just look at it. If it appeals to you, the price works, you know you should get it before the deadline, right? If not, walk away, only because you're going to get suckered into what all us enthusiasts are talking about anyway. So that's my controversial take on this.
Fair enough, right? And I think that's a great way to end the episode. Until then, we'll see you in the next one. All right, bye.